When I was about 3 years old, my mother brought me into a doctor's office to test me for a disease that she had heard of in the educational sphere known as autism. I was brought in for questioning, and apparently, according to her, and take her word with a grain of salt, I was brought in to a room and they tested me with my understanding of facial expressions, social norms, and things of the like. Apparently, about a good way through the test, they asked me a certain question, and according to her, every single person started writing in that room. I was diagnosed at 3 years old with autism. And as a Christian, it has fundamentally, and honestly, just as a person, it has fundamentally affected everything that I do in my life. It is such a chronic and down to the very bones and neurons in my brain affects everything that I do as a Christian. Today I wanted to talk about a reflection. This video takes place, this video will probably start in its storytelling right after the testimony video ended, which is when I became Orthodox. And I wanted to discuss my experiences as a young man with autism and how Christianity has helped me come to terms with it, and my challenges going into this religion with autism. As I mentioned in the testimony video, I dealt with a severe amount of feelings of being misunderstood. I also dealt with skepticism and rage at authority. And when I was 3 years old, I was diagnosed with three diagnoses: autism, ADHD, and apparently a now defunct, but I wear it with pride, mental illness called oppositional defiance disorder. Apparently I was touching too many glass cases as a kid. And when I talk about this, it often rings a couple of societal bells within people's heads. Usually people think of the neurodivergent culture or mental illness culture that surrounds this kind of this kind of talk. After all, mental diagnoses skyrocketed in the early 2000s and have been on the rise ever since. I mean, with new models in understanding psychology, who doesn't have some kind of weird alteration appear from the point of when they were born onward? I am one of the lucky few who, while having it, have had the very utmost beautiful gift of being self-aware and being able to deal with it in school and onwards. I got a lot of help from people in my elementary and teenage school years when I found a school that could help me with it. But the thing that it has probably impacted the most is my social life. It is especially bad because after becoming a Christian, all of the problems that I mentioned that I was having didn't go away. Like, it's not like my life is fixed now. I mean, I still, all the problems that I mentioned, such as my familial relationships, me living in my house with my father, my personal vices, etc., just haven't gone away. I wanted to talk about, like, this channel, how much my diagnosis has affected it, why, and some of the things that I have learned along the way in my life. So perhaps I think I should start with the song you are seeing in the background. It is a song, perhaps a very, very cinematic video in the background. And I picked that video in particular for a reason. What you are currently looking at is the French Revolution of 1794, and a song that I like to listen to and has helped me get through this kind of tumultuous period, in my young adult life, called Asaira, which means it will be fine. And it was a song that was sung quite comically by French revolutionaries as they dragged people with pikes through the streets. Because autism, and in my case, has come with several psychological complexes that Christianity has sought to mend. And I figured, since this diagnosis is quite common, that I would discuss it with you. If you guys read any of my publication, if you guys are on my Twitter, if you guys know anything about this project that I'm doing, you will know that I have a very big fascination with revolt and revolution. This was something that I developed quite young. I'm an American. I had a very dogmatic fundamentalist family. We're very conservative, and I grew up reading about the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and I got super, super into it when I was a young kid. I mean, that was the way that I expressed my love of history, was reading things about the terror of France and the overthrow of King Louis the XVI. The Russian Revolution of 1917. It's a very thematic, I think, thing. So what in the world does autism have to do with the French Revolution? And why am I talking about French Revolution stuff on a video about autism and Christianity? Well, because I started out as a Christian. My parents were Church of Christ. I grew up very, very dogmatically religious. And as autistic, as an outsider, and as someone who dealt with this kind of insecurity throughout my life, it was not very easy for me. I mentioned the now defunct mental disorder called oppositional defiance disorder. I still have it. I like to say that it kind of attaches itself to my autism. Like, my autism and that are kind of interchangeable. But social graces have never been my thing. I can string a sentence together, I can talk to people, I can learn all your games of what clothes to wear, but I just don't feel at home anywhere. I have trouble understanding social cues. I have trouble understanding implications in relationships. I have trouble understanding etiquette and propriety. And when I was really young, as mentioned in the testimony video, I was bullied a lot, and I had parents who would tell me to follow things kind of blindly. My mother, who I have a complicated relationship, was kind of on my team for the majority of this period. She would go to bat for me and try to, and when I was getting bullied at school. She was not, some people may have the impression that she was an abusive mother. She wasn't, and I will say that, point blank, but we had a very, very dysfunctional relationship due to this diagnosis. I was bullied severely in elementary school and middle school, and I grew up, I didn't make my first really good friend until I was about 8, and I didn't make my first permanent friend until I was around 14. I grew up kind of lonely. That did not mean I was without entertainment. When you have no friends in school, you learn to entertain yourself. I read a lot, but some of the other things that I did, as mentioned in some of my other videos, is I played video games. I loved video games. I still have a profound love of video games. Some of my favorites are The Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, that kind of stuff. When I got older, it was games like No Man's Sky. What else? The Tomodachi Life, things of the like, right? And I attach these to this period of my life, as I'm discussing this, because I cannot think of a point within my life. There's some people that believe that autism is something that's developed, or there's kind of the kooky conspiracy theorist who believes that you can contract it. I don't believe that. I can't think of a single moment in my life where I wasn't autistic. I remember I was diagnosed at 3, and this kind of tumultuous childhood had me growing up with severe insecurities. And I'm going to talk about these in an edifying manner. I will try to cut out most of the details. I've written about some of my big insecurities. And I will talk to you how I overcame a lot of some of these issues that I've grown up with. So, as a person, some things that, as an autistic guy, I have to keep in mind is I have three big complexes. I have a feeling of being an outsider. I have a feeling of being being and like repulsed by authority, and I have a tendency to feel inhuman or monstrous, like I'm not one of the people in my life. And these are complexes that I know are not true. I can prove that these are not true logically. It doesn't make sense that someone like me would it doesn't make sense that I'm not human. I was born a human. I exhibit the ontological characteristics of a human, but something along the way went wrong, whether that was developments in the brain, pre-pregnancy testosterone, autism, pre-pregnancy testosterone, Tylenol, whatever it was. I came out wrong. I came out a little kooky in the head. And so my early social life was a constant attempt, like from the age of, 7 onward. It was a constant attempt at pleasing people. I wanted to be friends, so I would please people. I would go out of my way to try to please people. But no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much effort I put into it, something wasn't working. And I would go a wrong step, and I got bullied a lot as a kid. And so, as I said in the testimony video, something needed to change when I got older. My bouts of anger were also bad during this period. I was the kid that threw desks in your class. If you had a screamer, that was me. Hi, it's your boy. And these three overarching complexes are commonly associated with autism. It doesn't come with all autistic people, obviously, because autism as a disease is a spectrum. There are high-functioning autistic people. There are kind of middle-ground autistic people. There are low-functioning autistic people with varying degrees of this autism. And I am a high-functioning autistic person. Very, very high-functioning. I also have ADHD. You combine that with a oppositional defiance disorder, you get a kind of explosive human. And these three kind of complexes, I think, are common. I mean, I've talked to so many people who feel that way about themselves in some way. And one of the reasons that I'm making this video is because I have noticed how common it is. Autism has... So when I got older... I developed a skill to try to overcome my autism. I figured, okay, if trying to follow the rules isn't working, then why don't I be social, but purposely break the rules? And so that's what I did. I was very flagrant and brazen. I still am, and I still am that. Like most people who know me say that about me. I'm very flagrant and brazen. I'll talk to people. I'll say whatever I want to, right? I have no boundaries. That's one of my big, I understand that other people have boundaries, and I can log those in my head so I can follow them, right? But nothing in, social circles is an absolute rule. I've come to learn. But this method of interacting with people I've carried with me since I was that age, because it seems to work. If I do not care about what they think of me, right? Or at the very least, I try not to care about what people think of me and try to kind of kill the self-consciousness, then I find that it is easier to interact with people, because people, unlike me, can catch on to those social, norms. And if they figure out, oh, he doesn't work on the same hardware as us, then he doesn't work on the same hardware as us, then they can act accordingly. And they can adapt to that. I have never felt like I have been able to adapt to that. But post conversion to Christianity, post familial break, Um, I this feeling, those three feelings have never left me, and I can probably assume that they will be with me for the rest of my life. And so this works as a kind of part two to my testimony video where I talk about like what this publication is, that kind of stuff, which you guys know most of that. But like why I write, how my autism has affected my Christianity, and why I choose to make these videos. You guys know most of it by this point if you watch the testimony video. So when I was growing up, I had a particular issue talking to people. But when I got into high school, I started to break those rules. I started to walk up to people and just randomly talk to them. And that seemed to work. I have some of the best friends that I've ever made in my life, flagrantly breaking all the social norms. And it was probably because one of the people was a kind of shut in himself. He was very shy, and I was able to be that person that kind of came, and he ended up becoming my best friend. And a person we are going to talk about today that has not only affected my philosophy, but has also affected a lot of my stories, and that being a person I like to affectionately call the Muse. And this is the video where I explain, the social interaction and how I've interacted with people and how Christ has been there through all of it. So when I last stopped talking to y'all on the testimony video, it was around year 16, when I was 16 years old. I ended up deciding after reading a bunch that I was, after going to a service, that I was Eastern Orthodox. But all of my senior year and all of my junior and senior year were for the most part socially amazing. I'm in choir, so I sung a lot. I went on a lot of trips. That was mostly where I hung out with these friends. I would go, I was also in debate, and the debate kids didn't like me very much. They had good reason not to like me, but I did have some interaction there. And now I have a church community and some friends kind of hanging out from high school. And these people have been everything throughout all of this. Leaving my mom's house, having to deal with college, starting these books. These people have been very, very encouraging for me. And it's partially due to my autism. It's partially due to this kind of feeling of being an outsider that I was able to decide, no, I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to break the rules, and maybe I'll find people. And I did. And I made a whole lot more enemies doing that. Like, I think I've made more people mad, more people scandalized doing that. But I have made some really good friends doing that. And compared to where I was beforehand, and compared of where I could have been, with, how bad the internet is and how bad, shut-ins get, I was like, no, I'm going to commit to fighting, because I know there's other people that struggle with this. My senior year of high school was very, very kind of formative for me. I was angry the whole year because I kind of stripped myself off from my parents' religious beliefs. I was dealing with the fact that they weren't willing to take me to church. I had to get rides for that. And throughout all of senior year, I was dealing with this extreme anger, this like defiance, this anger that just kind of came out of nowhere when I converted. And so I've had to learn how to deal with that. And I've had, over the last few years, I've had my moments where I've gotten extremely angry. I've written things that are extremely, extremely filled with this rage. And this rage was kind of in my childhood, but I was able to kind of siphon it out in high school. But when I converted and I lost all sense of like identity and meaning for a good year, I was angry because I just was like, I had this impression, even though I know it's not true, that the people in my life were lying to me, that they were somehow in on me not knowing the truth about God and about life. And now I know that that's not true. That's not real. But autism, with this feeling of being an outsider, not being able to perceive that that is in your head, really did affect me. And so all of senior year, I'm sleeping on an apartment floor 3 days a week, and I'm going to my house and I'm just going to my room, and the person I feel the most sorry for throughout all of this is my little brother, who kind of had to grow up really fast with both of my, me and my brother are kind of out there people, and my little brother had to play a sober guy, and he's only 14, but he's brilliant, like really brilliant. And so when I was going to church and starting to talk to people, right? I started to feel this sense of alienation. It was really bad, and it was gnawing at me that I wasn't like other, and it reminded me of what I was like when I was younger. And that really got to me. The fact that because I left this familial life, which I was coming into my own, and I was sort of following what my parents wanted me to do for a while, and ripping that out of me again really made me feel alienated. But now I recognize that is a complex. That's not real. And I can feel that way, but it doesn't mean it's true, if that makes sense. And I have to have that battle with myself pretty much in everything that I do. But throughout senior year, there have been people that have really helped me through this. My best friend, as mentioned earlier, being able to just call him and talk to him and help him through his own stuff really, really gave me a sense of, purpose. Like I was helping someone else who also felt weird, who also felt like an outcast. And then I met for the first time, my first, friend that I have, one of the first big friends that I have, I'll call her the Muse for this. And I met some, friends in high school, my friends in PE and stuff like that. And that really helped, like, a lot, having those people to talk to. And, if I'm on a, apartment floor sleeping, I could text, my best friend about, particular problems, or I could text the Muse about aesthetics, or about philosophy, or about Zelda characters for fun. I don't know, just for that kind of stuff. And so those relationships, having people in your life that are separate from you, really helps. Even if it's, and you have to go find those people. You can't kind of, what is it called? You can't really kind of stay where you are, you kind of have to go and look for them. You have to go talk to them. You have to go, break their ice that's around them, and so I started going to church, every couple of weeks, had some friends there. And then graduation happened. It was very beautiful. We got rained out one day, and so we had to come back the next day and do it. It was really interesting. There were a couple of weird speeches. They had a congressman come in. It was interesting. But I graduated in 2024, at top 25% of my class. I got a really good GPA. I was doing pretty good. 3.8 GPA, and started attending my freshman year of college. I got a job at a planetarium, I should say, not the, like there's plenty of those out there, but I got a job at a planetarium, and I was set for human existence. And then I left my mom's house. It was kind of nasty. There was enough fights and enough dysfunctionalism that I had to go. And this little apartment that I have currently is where I live now. This period, the last year or so, has been really difficult for me. I'm a sophomore now in college, but it has been really, really difficult for me. And at a really low point in all of this, I started writing. It was poetry, just religious poetry. The one consolation I had was Christianity. I don't know if people tell you this, but autism and Christianity go really, really well together, especially if you're Orthodox. The reason that it goes really, really well if you're Orthodox is because sensory overload. It punches you in the face with all these sights and smells and sounds, and it really levels you out. I almost feel when I go to an Orthodox church that like every like problem and pain and suffering kind of just levels out for, an hour or 2 hours, these 2 hour services. It's very physical. You can see it, you can hear it, you can smell it, and you do it. It's something that's lived, and that was really attractive to me. There was no kind of blank walls guy getting up on the pulpit and speaking. It was, here's the life, here's Christianity, here's what it is. I have a study Bible that has helped me throughout all of that. I have icons, and icons are a very central part of Orthodox theology. It feels like a match made in heaven. It was, but autism and Christianity go really, really well together, especially Orthodoxy. Orthodoxy has a emphasis on communion, going out and talking to people. It has an emphasis on living the life of living everyday praxis. It has a emphasis on sensory and physical experiences and mystical experiences, and that is amazing. It's super good for my brain. It helps kind of level me out. Prayer is so much easier. So now I'm not just kind of free falling it. I have, okay, stand here, look at the icon of Christ, read this. When you're reading this, look at that person. When you're reading this, look at that person. Private petition, look anywhere. And so like it was like a match made in heaven. And so throughout my freshman year of college, I would be working. Then I would go to school, and every single day I'd come home and pray. Throughout all of this, because I kind of lost contact with a lot of my friends, and I've regained most of that contact, I made some new friends. It was really lonely. And for the first time in a long time, in a few years, I had experienced what I did back when I was, on the playground getting beat up, this anger, this rage, and this resentment that was slowly building. I was lucky I wasn't completely alone. I had someone I was living with. I was living with my father. I interacted with my family as much as I could. I wrote, and throughout all of this experience, it was really, really difficult, but this kind of kept me sane, or at least semi-sane, however sane you can get. So as I was, doing all of these things, and where we are, right now, I'd like to tell you that I was chrismated, in April. I remember the week before, I was having nightmares every night. I was not going to sleep very well. I was super depressed. I slept only 1 hour the day that I was chrismated. None of my family showed up except for my father, who left like 25 minutes in. I accidentally forgot that Oblast isn't Chrism, and the priest had to tell me not to walk up during baptism. Then I looked down when I walk in the door, and on accident I'm wearing red, and everyone else is wearing white, and it was brilliant. It was awful. It was such a providential moment, I think, because even though it was like I did not do that on purpose. That was something when I was younger I would absolutely do on purpose, but I did not do that on purpose. And I received the name Lawrence, so that's why I open every video like, I am Caleb WH, you can call me Caleb, Lawrence, I'm not fussy. It comes from that. Was chrismated under the name Lawrence. He is my patron saint. He was the first saint I ever read about, and also having like history and figures to read about really helps like ground my experience, because it's not like a kind of lofty in the sky type faith. It's real. It's real. It's got real history, real politics, real people. And that helped a lot. But when I was chrismated, I dealt with some more interesting things this summer, coming to terms with a lot of things, dealing with family, had a bunch of crazy things happen to me in 3 months. I went almost borderline manic, got a therapist, and that's where the testimony video comes from, was that period in my life where I was dealing with all of that. And so I frame all of this. I frame all of this part of my life trying to tell you that if you feel repulsive, if you feel like an outsider, if you feel like an outcast, there's a place for you. Because there was a place for me. And if there was a place for you, there's a place. There's a place for me. There was certainly a place for you. You see, I started this video out talking about these three complexes. One of the biggest ones that has affected me is it is not necessarily autism based. I have heard that it has some through lines there, but I have always, due to my upbringing, had such a problem with authority. I was always kind of a rebel kid. It was the revolutions I was reading about, and I have the amount of pain and suffering that authority has brought into my life cannot be overstated. I talk about this because I know there are some people that go through this as well. Orthodoxy is a very hierarchical religion, and so people with that inner turmoil may feel like that there's not a place for them, but there is. Because Orthodox hierarchy doesn't work like Western hierarchy does. It has a different mode of thinking. It has a different understanding of itself, and it helps a lot to know that. I have a Jacobin hat back there. I have a French Revolution background in the background of this video. So I understand what that's like. I've dealt with it pretty much all of my life. When I started writing and I started going to church, when I started doing what I do now online, it was that rage, that anger that was able to push me forward, and get me through a lot of that period of my life. I have 3 books. I have I have almost 20 manuscripts that you can find online for free. I keep everything digitally for free. And I write religious poetry, I write philosophy, I do all of that kind of stuff. And if you're interested in that, and if you're interested in themes like authority, like being an outsider, now because you will find all of that in my writing. And you can look at memes on Twitter about my characters. You can read them yourself. And they're very autistic characters. They're very, what's the word? What's the Tumblr word? Queer-coded, I think. But that's not exactly... So that big complex that I've had throughout my life has caused me to identify with this kind of revolt-style imagery. And I stage Christianity as that for a reason. Because I have an opinion on Christianity, so have a lot of people, right? I think there's a place for people like us. I think there's a place for weirdos. I think there's a place for outsiders. I really do. And I'm trying to show that in traditional Christian teaching, there is a place for the marginalized, and not like a progressive or a conservative. I'm saying that for real. Like, there's a place for us in this world. We are made by the Lord. The Lord made us. When I had my religious experience, it was one of the most home I've ever felt. And I don't plan on feeling that way until I get up to the pearly gates. But I can get a small taste of it when I pray. I can get a small taste of it when I go to the liturgy. I'm finally home again. Don't get me to being emotional, but this kind of anger, this rage, it's not wrong. It's just diagnosing a problem that you can't really name. And I get that feeling. I've been there. I've really been there. You feel lost. You feel like you don't have a sense of identity. You don't have meaning, don't have purpose. I promise you that He knows that, and He made you to have a relationship with Him. He made you, he knitted you in your mother's womb to do that, you know? And I'm sorry if I'm getting preachy. I know this is a video about autism. So if I get preachy, just consider me spurging out. I don't know. But yeah, so one of the second complexes that I've had and has affected my religious life and how I think it can, a good understanding of it in an Orthodox framework is this feeling of being an outsider. Feeling like I'm constantly left out, feeling like I'm don't understand certain things that people understand, being barred from things, that feeling. And that kind of plays into the authority complex a little bit, but it's a feeling I've dealt with all of my life. I mean, I'm still a different person, but I'm still just the same kid who got beat up outside of a playground. I'm still the same kid who cried on the floor of my dad's apartment. I'm still that kid. And I'm still that human. The Lord was there, I think. The Lord was there, but he had to watch, I think, from the sidelines a little bit. He had to let me kind of come and find him. You know, I had to choose him, and I did. But this feeling like an outsider is perfect, has a perfect antidote in Orthodoxy, the liturgy. I'm dead serious. Like I'm dead serious. That is the best antidote to the problem. When I go into church, every single like outsider feeling that I have, as soon as the priest says, "Bless Master, blessed is the kingdom, always now and ever unto ages of ages, amen," all of it goes away, because I'm not there for that anymore. I'm there for him, not the priest. Christ, that guy right there. But communion, having places to go and eat, having people that care about you, having a spiritual father, having friends, having peers. Orthodoxy is such a beautiful method for that. And you'd be surprised to know, probably not at all, that most of the converts here in the United States are very, very autistic. I can tell you, one, from personal experience. Number two, because everyone that I know from church is at least a little weird, and I love them for it. That is why I'm there for it. A lot of the converts in the West had to find it. You know, a friend of mine said that it was like a rare Pokemon. You know, it's, and so, you know, us weirdos are going to go and find it. You know, we're going to go to find the weird thing on the edge, you know? And the last complex that I've had that is profoundly affected by my autism is this feeling of being inhuman. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So I think this can be really applied in multiple ways. Because growing up, as a man, I was thrust a lot of expectations that I not only did not follow, I did not want to follow them. When I was growing up, I was taught, you know, most of the conservative things about men. Men are supposed to be providers, protectors. Men are supposed to get a decent job and find a wife and, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's all well and good, but it was like the stuff where it's like men have to do this. Men are expected to fill this societal role. Men should chin up, you know, and be a man and don't express your feelings. Don't cry. I was like, that's awful. I'm going to cry. Wah! That was how I responded to it. And so I grew up with this weird feeling that I wasn't a man. Now it wasn't gender dysphoria, because it wasn't an expression of like, oh, I think I'm a woman. No, it was like, whatever you think a man is, I'm just not that. Like, whatever these people over here think that a man is, I'm just a human. Just let me be human. But not really, upholding these societal roles and upholding the societal understanding of what a man should be, and simultaneously really not fitting into the queer crowd, because the queer crowd didn't like that I had such a fidelity to, things that were, things like love, things like truth. They didn't like that I had a fidelity to what that was. They didn't like how scrupulous I was with that understanding. And so I have felt like the queer people don't like me, the hood kids don't like me, the popular kids don't like me. Who likes me then? Like, where am I supposed to go? And my twin brother likes to joke, and he joked a couple days ago that I'm like Rufus from Remember the Giants. And that killed me because I have felt that way a lot. Like, I'm kind of that person that's like, I'm friends with everybody. I don't have a clique. I will be friends with you if you want to be friends with me. I'm very open. I don't have boundaries. I am a blank slate. You need to tell me something super scandalous about yourself. I am your guy. Please tell me. Tell me all of it. Tell me all of your little scandals. Tell me all of it. Tell me all of your insecurities. I'm here for that. So some people think that I come across as overly overly, what's the word, clingy or that kind of stuff. It's not really that. It's just somebody has to explain to me, hey, he's doing this right now. Don't do that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I won't do that. And so I've kind of gone through life with this feeling of being inhuman. And one of the reasons that I started the, religious poetry and the philosophy project that I'm doing is to answer this question, this problem of outsiderness, or this problem of marginalization, this problem of a different ontology. And so I'm trying and simultaneously reconciling that with Christianity and with the fact that we have equal worth to those people. And that has been my goal throughout all of this. So those are like the three big main, insecurities that I have as a man, or as a human, I guess. When people, so this is why things like the gender divide really don't make sense to me. I'm a man, but like, I don't think like the way that you say men do. I can't even claim to know what like a woman is like. I don't really have that metric in my head. Because I've just always been human, I guess, and I've been kind of denied that because I refuse to fit within this Southern United States norm of what a human should be. And I know there are going to be some people that are like, oh, it's not that way. You can break all the norms. You can break them all. It's like, there are some of the norms that actually have a purpose. There are some of the norms that have a like real ontological purpose. You can't just break the fact that you're a man. I mean, it's biology and it's also an ontological thing. So it's both. Your body declares it, but being a man is so much more than the biology of it. And being a woman is so much more than just the social, the socioeconomic version of being a woman or biology. It's so much more beautiful than that. And so that's what I've kind of been trying to reconcile. This is the reason this publication exists. It's the reason that I yap to you about this stuff. It's the reason that I do this. And it has a profound impact on how I express Christianity. I have a feeling that a lot of the more conservative Orthodox crowd would have a problem with some of the things that I say or do, which, by the way, I have permission from my spiritual father. I run by all of my stuff very regularly with my spiritual father. I try to do it once every 6 months or so, just to kind of tell him, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you bless it? That kind of stuff, right? I'm not a teacher. Like, don't consider me a teacher. I am a yapper and I am an artist. And I can tell you about interesting things to make your day better. And I can also create things for you to give you medicine to make it through the day. As of making this video, I have 19 works. I have my 3 published works. I have The Wretched Psalter, Oedipus and the Gorgon, and Stadius and Saint Lamort. I have the short stories called The Four Bodies on Lookout Mountain, Mademoiselle Moth, The Fiddler of the Lantern Fog, The Living Doll of Everswald, and The Bridge of Ashes. And I have my first anthology series called the Carnival Anthology, which is Vanity Before the War, Carnival of Salt and Wounds, The Psalter of the Salt Flat, Disciples of the Troop, and Finale Carnevale Synaxarion. And then I have my spin-offs, such as Oedipus's Apology, and I have works such as, and I have my treatises such as Cynicist Christianity, which is a story that I am not telling today, but it is my first philosophical treatise. And I have my second anthology called The Mirror of Golgotha, and it is kind of one book. It's one of its own things. And these works I wrote over the last year. Since November, I've been consistently writing, every single day, and 19 manuscripts in 1 year, I'd say, is really good. And I have a long way to go as a writer. I don't claim to be an amazing writer. I claim to just be trying. I'm giving this all to him. It's all his. He can have it. And if somebody needs it, they can have it. All of my stuff is free digitally, and you can also find the 3 published works on Amazon. I will put them in the description. And why do I tell you about this? Why do I tell you about that? Well, because I was given a second chance at life. I'm not going to waste it, and I'll do it all for him. I spent a lot of my years when I was younger kind of fooling around. I have developed massive vices on my part, and I'm not going to justify or sit here and talk to you about the things that I did in Life Confession or the things that are in my testimony video. I'm not here to explain myself. I am here to say that I was given a second chance at life, and I'm not going to break it, and I'm not going to waste it. And I may be an outsider. I may be crazy. I may be strange. Maybe all of these things. But I also am a creation of God. I'm not better than anyone, not worse than anyone. I'm equal to all of you. And I love you. The reason I get up in the morning, all of you that watch this video, you are the reason that I get up in the morning. Because this is an expression of my religious life. I am not a teacher. I am not a theological authority. I am a guy who knows things and who wants to help you. I will put my publication, my Twitter, and a link to my introduction and manuscripts into the description. This has been a really interesting video, and I've liked making it, and I hope that you will look at some of my other stuff. For those of you that don't know, my name is Caleb W.H., and I do this for fun. I have my own life. I have my own responsibilities. I have my own, existence. But this is really a personal thing to me, because I want to help people, and I want to spend my life doing that for the rest of my life. I want to spend my life helping weird people, strange people, people kind of off their rocker, or people that feel strange or that they're irredeemable, because I love them. And so thank you for putting up with this yap session, and I hope you enjoyed this yap session about autism, Christianity, friendships, relationships, and the like. Thank you guys so much for watching. And one last thing before we go. As you can probably see, there's a little bit more left. I wanted to send you off on a little bit of a reflection. So throughout the video, you can't hear it, but there is a song playing in my room called Asaira, which is, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, called It Will Be Fine. And throughout all of this, I've listened to it pretty much on repeat for pretty much most of this year. And the reason that it is such a, heartbreaking and heartwarming song to me is because it was sung by starving Parisians who were fed up with the monarchy, and they went in and they grabbed them and they killed them. They fed up with the monarchy and the aristocracy, and so they had 1 year of a full tirade, and the song that could be heard in the streets of burning Paris was, "It will be fine, it will be fine, it will be fine, throw the aristocrats to the lampposts. It will be fine, it will be fine, it will be fine, it will be fine, throw the aristocrats to the lamppost." My community I call the Assembly, or the International Assembly of Good Fools and Abused Foids. It is an internet joke. It's very playful. And to put this on the end of the video, I wanted to say that that is what y'all are to me. Y'all are an international assembly of weirdos and weird women. You are just an assembly of weirdos. And I love all of you. And I promise you, just don't kill the aristocrat just yet. Don't do it. Don't crash out. I know you want to, but stick around a little bit. Call out to him. And I promise you that God will answer. Thank you guys so much for watching, and God bless you.